Hi everybody and welcome back to the Polymer Clay channel. I'd just like to say firstly thank you to my new subscribers. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have you here. I'm going to show you a tutorial today on how to make an elephant. Now this is a flat elephant, so it's going to go on a fridge or something magnetic. So I'll show you what I've made here, and this is what the final piece will look like. So there's one, and it's got magnets on the back here. And I also have another one here just to show a bit of variance. And these are inspired by Indian elephants. They do have a lot of colour and a lot of decoration on them, which I really enjoy doing. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, so I start by rolling and conditioning the clay. What I'm doing here is rolling it so that it's having sort of a more depth to it, so that I'm doing it in a rocking motion, so it's got a little bit more, I don't want it to be flat when I put it on the fridge, so that's why I'm doing this sort of shape. I also like the shape sort of rounded as well. I tend not to use cutters because they can be quite sharp on the edges, so I do a lot of flattening and sort of softening on the edges here. What I'm doing here is making the size a little bigger, so it can be quite a nice sort of sized elephant on the fridge. I have sort of different designs. Sometimes I make them a bit smaller, sometimes a bit bigger. These ones are actually quite big. They sort of come out palm size, but I quite like them like that. They sort of look quite pretty. So what I'm doing here is just getting the shape right, and then this part here is where the bottom part and the legs are going to be, and I like them to curve quite nicely, so they come in at a bit of an angle. So I'm just smoothing it round, and getting the good shape to start off with helps, because then the the initial look to it is quite good. So here I'm going to cut the elephant trunk. Now this is going to be with quite a sharp blade, so I tend to be quite careful with this. And then I make sure that it's blunted afterwards. So I'm doing it quite carefully because I don't want the clay to split. So quite often when you take a sharp blade to any sort of polymer clay and then move it as I've just done, it has a tendency to tear. So what I do is I soften the edges almost immediately and make sure that it's going to stay together. And I use variant tools to do this. One of the red plastic ones, one of my favourites for that. This one has got a rubber flat end to it, so that's really good. I like this one because it's really versatile and does exactly what I want it to do most of the time. So I'm quite careful when I have cut a piece of clay to make sure that the edges are really softened, which is what I'm doing now, as they go basically. So I lift it slightly and then make sure that the right at the point is softened so it doesn't tear. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. I can tell you that I've been lucky this time. So I use a mixture of tools to do this. Particular one of my dotting tools, they're really good. It's got a flexible bendy part on one of the ends, and that's really good for making sure that it doesn't tear afterwards, so that's good. And this part really is all about getting the initial shape right and making sure that the design of it isn't too thick, so I'm sort of squeezing it and making sure it is all the right shape at this point. And I go to also as far as making sure that the elephant's trunk is long enough as well, because I'll be curling that round, so I do want that length there to make sure I have enough clay to do that. Quite often the clay is quite thick here, so I normally manage that by just stretching and pulling it down a little bit, and that sort of works out quite well. It's good time to note actually, I do a lot of my work on a tile, so therefore once I've actually worked on it and actually created something, it can then go straight in the oven, so I don't have to move it quite so much, which is quite good. So I'm just working out the length of the little curl at the end of the trunk, and I'm just popping that round now. I like to make it so that it sticks out quite a bit. I think it gives it quite a cute look. And then once I've got the trunk shaped in place, I then look at the design of the rest of it and how I'm going to make it. I noticed that the clay was a bit dry, so I'm just popping some oil on it. That does two things. It smooths out all the fingerprints, and it makes the clay a little tacky. And the reason for that is so that I can pop other pieces of clay, little swirls and designs and things on top, and they stay put where they're supposed to be. Also, when you stamp and things like that, it's really handy to have a little bit of stickiness in the clay, so then it'll really adhere to the stamps sort of pattern that you're going to put in. This way, it's quite good for basically smoothing out everything and making sure that the shape is okay. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so now I'm ready with my stamp. I've decided on that one. That is actually one of my favourites. It's got a nice swirl pattern on it. And I'm just sort of angling it so it goes along the back of the elephant. I think that's a nice area to have most of the decoration. With the oil that's on it, it does actually impression really well. So I press it on, keep it still with one hand, and then press and then gently lift from both sides, and that gives, as you can see, quite a nice deep and effect to it. I think that's, as I said, one of my favourite stamps. So, and it has such a nice look to it as well. Moving on from there, I'm just going to do the legs. Now this is really simple. Again, I'm using my blunt plastic tool. It's brilliant for this. I don't want the legs to be apart as such, so I just want to give the impression of legs and then the indent there. I tend to make it fairly deep so it does look like a good impression there. And then I use the dotting tool, which is the medium-sized dotting tool that I've got, to do the little feet design on the bottom there. Okay, so now I'm going in with the first swirl. Sometimes the smaller parts take a little bit of conditioning, so I give it a good condition to make sure that it's nice and soft. When you start bending and twisting clay, if you don't get the condition right, it will snap as you roll. So I tend to make these ones a little bit more softer. So there's the swirl. It's quite a nice design, and it's a really nice simple design to put on an elephant as well. A lot of my designs are swirls and things like that. I just find them really easy to make, and what I do now is just make several of them in that sort of size, and then just pop them along that line that's left there from the stamp, and that sort of covers it up as well. It makes it not as harsh, and it gives it a nice sort of transition between a stamped piece and a different sort of style on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of that line all the way down to the bottom end. So all the little swirls are done, so that gives that quite a nice design across the middle. So I've just rolled out a piece of clay into a ball and then made it into a pear shape and then flattened it out. And this is to do the ear. So again, what I'm doing is making it flat but also a little bit sort of deep, so it's got quite a thickness to it, but then it goes down sort of at the edges. And then I place it on the design so it doesn't obviously cover up too much. I decided to take those swirls out because obviously it was a little too high and I want to be able to get the eye in as well. So it's about sort of placement really and seeing where things go. I didn't realise I wasn't going to need all those, so I tend to make a lot of the designs step by step and just sort of see how I go. It's quite nice like that because I sort of play around with it really until it looks good. So that's the ear in place. I tend to give it a little lift at the end so it's got some sort of movement to it. I don't like it sort of completely flat. I'm very much a 3D person when it comes to creating magnets. I like things to sort of pop out, but I always make sure that it's got a stable background so it doesn't snap or anything like that. So that's the ear in place, and I'm just looking at the design around there. So I've put the eye in. I did that with my nail, nothing special involved there, just literally in a circle motion so it looks like it's a little eye shape. And then I put in the eyelashes with one of my other tools. It's sort of a blunt knife. It's not really one of the sharpest that I've got, but I wanted the eyelashes to be sort of quite deep and quite open, so it does look quite nice when it's like that, rather than have something that was sort of more of a sliced look. It doesn't look so well like that. So here what I've done is just popped in the dents where the eyelashes go and just creating the eye shape. I like to make the eye a little deeper, sort of to give it a bit more detail like that. So here I go on to make the little balls, and these are going to be for the decoration. So this part is more like the sort of gems that come from the top of the elephant's head and across the trunk. and across the ears. These do take quite a while to make, so I do fast forward this bit. I make quite a few because I find that if I make them all at once, then I can just pop them on in different sizes where I go. They're quite nice from this sort of point of view, because if I make them in lots of different sizes, they don't look all sort of uniform, and I dot them around and make them in different lines as well, and I make sure that they've got quite a curve to them, which is, I think, quite an important part, because again, for me, it's then not regimented, and it's quite a 3D effect, which I really like. Okay, so as I said, there's quite a few here. I made all the little balls, and as you can see, they're all sort of varying sizes, not much in size, but enough to sort of give the design a little bit of variance. And what I'm doing here is sort of placing them in different areas in a straight line, so they come down almost like gems, and they sort of have that sort of Indian elephant look to it. Again, this is a design I made up myself. It's not something I've followed. I've looked at different designs on the internet and come up with my own design, really. I make them all similar-ish, but I just sort of take my artistic flair and just get on with it, really. So I'm just placing them, the second one across, and sort of getting them so that they look in the right place, but also so that they don't look too sort of straight and structured. I like a bit of curl to it, so I'm just doing that across the top part of the elephant's head now, and seeing sort of where else I can place them. I do think these balls do make it look quite elegant on the elephant as well, and later on you'll see that I colour them and pop, of course, glitter on them as well. So you've got to have glitter on an Indian elephant. Okay, so I'm just going to do that a bit more decoration now for the next part. So I'm just going on now to make some more swirls. These are going to be slightly smaller ones, and I'm going to be dotting them around the elephant, on the body part near the legs, and also on the trunk as well. These are quite nice to make in terms of sort of ease. Literally just make the little design and pop them on, as I have done there. And I'm making a little flat piece here because I came up with an idea. I wanted to just do a little design and make a little heart for the bottom part of the elephant, just for something different, really. I've not done that before, but I quite like the idea, so I just kind of went with it, and I really like the design, so I popped the little heart on the bottom of the elephant in a minute. And also it's quite nice to have something like that, so when I pop the mica powders on, it does highlight the print as well, so I thought that was quite a nice idea. I just sort of popped into my head, so I thought I'd just give it a go and see what it looked like. So I was quite happy with that on the bottom there. I thought it was quite a sweet look. So I'm having a little bit of a think here to try and see what to sort of come up with next. I tend to play with the design a little bit just to see if I really like it. Of course, once it's cooked, that's it. So I've decided I'd had enough with the balls, and I go with my dotting tool. Quite often you'll see in my designs throughout my videos I do like to pop dots in. For some reason, I don't know why, but I do them in dots of 3 and I like to group them all together. And it just sort of gives the design a sweet look, really. So I'm just putting in the creases in the elephant's trunk, and then I think I pop that little swirl back in there somewhere as well, and I just sort of go around the design, checking to make sure nothing's loose. Obviously the balls do have a tendency to roll off sometimes, so I just make sure that everything is in place. I always make sure that if I'm popping something on an elephant, that nothing sort of hangs off the edge as well. Fimo, if it's sort of left, something sort of sticks out, it has a tendency to break. So there we go. I think the next step is the mica powders, and my favourite part is the glitter. So I'm starting with the mica powders now. I've got purples, reds and sort of pinks, so all the same sort of hues. And then I've got the darker bronze to sort of highlight around the edges as well. I always go for some sort of bronze or gold because I think it looks so nice when you've got a design like this. And then I've got the glitters to also highlight the balls as well. So I just go ahead and go round the design in a varied way, popping the mica powders down where I think it looks pretty, and that's what I'm sort of going to spend some time doing now. Okay, I'm starting with the glitter. I tend to pour out a little bit of the tar so then I can really sort of press it on. As I have put some of the mica powders on already, I'm going to use a little bit more sort of pushing kind of motion to make sure that it all sticks. Normally I leave a little part sort of untouched so that the glitter sticks really well, but I think I got a little bit carried away with the mica powders this time, so I'm just popping it under sort of all the places where I think it looks quite nice. I do like this glitter because it's one of the mixtures that I use, and it's got lots of varied sizes in it, so it's got like a dust, and then it goes up in sizes of the glitter. I like placing them on in clusters as well, so I don't sprinkle the glitter everywhere. I put it in highlighted places, and that's generally sort of a style I use across a lot of things that I make. So I'm just having fun here, placing all the glitter on where I think it looks good, and I'm just gonna go ahead and carry on doing that. Okay, so this is the end piece. Elephant is still stuck to the tile, so it's not going to slide off. I'm actually quite impressed with this. I don't normally use a bronzy colour, so with the pink I think it looks really nice, so I was quite happy with this. And that's my other one there. Thanks for watching. Bear me in mind. If there's a particular thing you'd like to learn how to make, I'll see if I can help. Just drop me a line in the comments section below and I'll see what I can do.